The cool thing about doing your own YouTube channel is that you can learn as you go. I mean, when I started my channels, I took a course and I read a lot of books and tried to figure out what was up. But as you go along, people will tell you what they want you to do and what they don't. I mean, you can take it or leave it, but sometimes the comments are pretty good. I mean, sometimes people will say, "Hey, Colin, make your videos shorter or make them longer, or do this, do that." About a month ago, somebody said, "Colin, you got to put your own face in the videos. You got to talk live into the camera." I didn't like the idea of that, not just because no one has ever confused me with George Clooney, but once you go on camera, you raise the level of complexity by, about 10 times. You got to get the lighting right. I mean, before I was just talking over some pictures, right? You got to get the lighting right. You got to do some makeup. You got to comb your hair, brush, keep your beard trimmed, the whole thing. One other thing you got to do, you got to make sure your background is all squared away. Like my background, I try to have some books, maybe an open window, that kind of thing. You don't want smudges. What is that? That's part of our story. We're not going to get into that now. We need a little intro first. So in my little town of Wilmington, Delaware, when I talk about it, I don't talk about it from the perspective of this is a special place. What I talk about it is this is a microcosm, an average place of places like Philly, Baltimore, Camden, parts of New York, Detroit, Chicago, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Milwaukee, St. Louis. This is a long list. Kansas City. But that's why I live here. I spend a lot of time here at my brother's house where we both grew up, because I'm kind of right in the middle of it. I mean, every day I see this violence. I see the denial. That's what I really see here. And so Wilmington kind of went big time this week. This guy was walking down the street and he saw these pigs hassling these kids. So he made a video out of it, but most of the video is him badgering the cops. Got like 4 million views and made this guy a little bit of a hero. Well, let's see if he is or not.
Come on, man. Come on, man. Come on, just talk to him and let him go, man. Come on. You don't need to do that, man. What you gonna? He got 5 felonies? Come on, man.
2007.
Look at this shit, man. This shit enrages me, man. Look, I'm gonna just fall back. I'm just video this shit. I'm sorry. Yo, man, y'all didn't do nothing. Matter of fact, don't say nothing. You don't gotta say nothing till your mom come. That's your right. You don't gotta say nothing. Come on, man. Like for real, they ain't did nothing. Let them go. God damn, man, let them go. They ain't did nothing. They babies, man.
And who said they did anything?
All right, but you taking the names down on it.
Did we run them yet?
Yo, bro.
You know what's going on, sir?
What's going on?
Yeah, what's going on?
I just explained to you we have serious problems down there.
All right, well then you catch the perpetrators. You leave them children alone. Leave them children alone.
Juveniles.
Come on, man. Leave them children. If you catch somebody in the act, then you do that shit. Leave them little boys alone, man. For real, leave them little boys alone, man. Get in your car and go. Leave them the fuck alone, man.
All right, come on, Damon.
For real.
The blue boys is going.
Shit, you all extra and shit for nothing. And you on live. Thank you. Fuck out of here. Gotta talk to you motherfuckers like that. I make more money than y'all at work, bitch. I about hit that motherfucker, man. I about hit him, man. I got so much shit inside of me, man. I about to hit that motherfucker. Leave them kids alone, motherfucker. Fuck with me, man. Fuck with me. Fuck with me, man. I got so much shit in me right now, that motherfucker's gonna get fucked up. You better leave them motherfucking kids alone, man. You lucky Sharice was there, motherfucker. Or it'd have been fucking her.
So the next day, the cops go to this guy's house. They may have taken a SWAT team And the reason they took a SWAT team may have had something to do with the fact that this guy talked about his own criminal history. If you look at I didn't see much in the public record on him, but he talks about his own criminal past, and people in the readers' comments and the message boards around Wilmington talk about this guy has a pretty serious criminal past. You could never tell from that video, could you? He seemed like such an even-tempered fellow. Anyway, next day they go and arrest him for interfering with an investigation. That night there was a big demonstration down at the police department, and they end up letting him go. Boy, there sure were some interesting characters at that demonstration, and everybody knows who they are. So not like I'm spilling the beans here. Well, first there was this guy. He's the guy that got arrested for interfering with an investigation. And then there's this guy. They call him Pastor D. Pastor D is a killer. Pastor D killed somebody, went into prison, became a model prisoner, became a pastor, came out, and now he goes around preaching to everybody about how cops are always picking on black people for no reason whatsoever. Then the other guy next to him, that big guy, he's the head of the local Nation of Islam. Last time I saw him, he was at one of these meetings, the anti-crime meetings. They put him on. There were 20 elected officials in this room. There were like 200 people, like 20 elected officials. And a lot of them wanted to talk. He's the one they put up first. He's the one they put up saying, anybody who's against the current mayor who just got kicked out of office in an election, anybody who's against him is doing the devil's work, and it's this like sinister forces are gathering to prevent him from doing what he has to do for black people in Wilmington. Oh yeah, Wilmington's a chocolate city. Wilmington's a dangerous city, on the cover of Newsweek of being called like Murder Town, USA. So they're all celebrating, they're celebrating this guy stopping the cops from talking to these kids. There was one little line in that little confrontation that what I looked at as a rather routine confrontation. One little line where the cop goes, "We're investigating a crime at the riverfront." Now, the riverfront is, I think every city does this, or at least they try it. They carve out a little piece of land and they either gentrify it, or in Wilmington's case, they start it from scratch. It was just an industrial area near a river. Boom. That's near downtown. Boom. We put a bunch of stuff there. Well, the riverfront is a little bit of an island, this shopping and boardwalk complex with a movie theater, lots of restaurants. But it's not that much of an island where kids on bikes don't go down there and cause trouble. By causing trouble, I mean beating people and robbing people. I have a friend who works in the emergency room of the local hospital, and she said a lot of stuff goes on down there that she never reads in the paper, and she doesn't know why. And so that's what that cop was doing. The cop was going, there's something happening at the riverfront, and he was just asking these kids what they knew anything about it. Nothing more sinister than that. Once a year or so in the local paper, they do a story about a group in Wilmington called Peacekeepers. Well, I had a chance to meet a couple peacekeepers once, and they gave me a flyer, and I looked at the flyer, turned it over. I actually read these things. Turned it over. The very first rule of peacekeepers, they give these flyers out to kids, right? Black people going into black neighborhoods. Very first rule of peacekeepers, don't talk to the cops. So this isn't really peacekeepers. It's really like law avoiders. The gist of peacekeepers is that cops are always picking on black people for no reason whatsoever. It's interesting. I'm on the police department press release list from my time doing a radio show here at the local talk station, WDEL. So I get their press releases. The exact minute those kids were being stopped by that cop, not too far away, maybe less than a mile away, there were 3 black people beating the hell out of a 64-year-old dude who was out walking his dog. But yet, if you look at this map real carefully, you'll see the house where your humble correspondent was born in just a couple of years ago, less than 100 yards away. Yeah, all these pictures are like right there. And you could have given somebody $1 million when these pictures were taken and said, what do you think the chances are people are going to get bopped over the head and robbed when they're walking their dogs in this neighborhood? people would have said, what the hell are you talking about? That doesn't happen around here. So this guy's now a folk hero. He's a folk hero because these cops, kind of hapless cops, they're charged. You know, if somebody gets bonked over the head at the riverfront, all the city councilmen come running to them saying, "What's going on down there? Why aren't you guys catching these criminals?" And then when they do stuff in the ordinary course of their duties, these same people are going to the cops and calling them lots of nasty names, like racist police. Let's fast forward to the local newspaper this morning. All this stuff's happening like now, right? So I don't really read the local paper, but I went to a little restaurant my buddy Ralph owns. If you've read Don't Make the Black Kids Angry or listen to any of my podcasts, you know who Ralph is. So I went to Ralph's place for breakfast. See the paper. I picked the paper up. I didn't even normally. I don't have the. I kind of didn't have the nerve to read this article, but it said the question of the big headline was, "Does race make a difference in prison sentencing?" I said, "Okay, I'm waiting for my breakfast. I might as well read it." So the reporter starts off by saying, like 60% of people in Delaware prisons are black, but only like 20% of people that live in Delaware are black. What is, we know there's a disparity. We just don't know why. And so this has been like the big thing for the Delaware State Supreme Court Justice. I think his name is Leo Stein, an ACLU type that got put on the Delaware State Supreme Court bench. So he went out and got a couple of professors from University of Pennsylvania right up the street in Philadelphia. And they kind of charged them saying, "What's up with this racial disparity? Parentheses. Please tell us why cops are picking on black people for no reason whatsoever in Delaware." So anyway, these guys did this huge study, huge story. You kind of have to go through it. But about 3/4 of the way down, it says came the money graph. Oh yeah, after correcting for previous offenses, after correcting for seriousness of offenses, after correcting for this, correcting for that in their study, yeah, the guys from the big shots from the University of Pennsylvania said, "Oh yeah, there's no racial disparity in sentencing or criminal justice in Delaware." Now they didn't say the next sentence, but this is what the next sentence should have been. The only reason there's more people, the only reason there's 3 times more black people in prison in Delaware is because black people commit at least 3 times more crime. And now we've got this clown becoming a folk hero on the streets of one of the most dangerous and dirty and crime-infested cities in America. He's sitting there interfering with the cops as they're trying to figure out who's committing these crimes against violence and crimes against property. Which brings us to the smudge. Okay, what is that? Every cop, there's lots of cops on this watching this. Every cop will know what that is. That's a fingerprint dust. That's a fingerprint dusting. So last Saturday, I went to Ralph's. I usually go there a couple Saturdays a month. It's 45 minutes from here, 45 minutes together. So I went down there, came back, all was well. I come out right here on this porch. And I kind of looked, just kind of like started putting together all my equipment, because sometimes I come out here when I make videos out here. So I decided I would put that off, and I'd go up and take a shower. Okay? I just go in, I just leave the door open. I'm up in the shower, total, from here to there and back, 30 minutes. Somebody came in the back door, took 2 of my brother's computers, who has the same kind of computers as I do, but mine was upstairs just by luck, because 9 out of 10 times it would have been right here. Somebody came in, took the computers, took off. Listen, the person who did it was black. If there was more than one, they were black. That's the nature of violent crime and crime against property in this town. There are no white kids walking around, groups of white kids walking around testing doorknobs, testing garage doors, testing car doors. I mean, just a few weeks ago, I thought somebody was going to make something out of this during the election they had just a few weeks ago for mayor. The police issued a press release saying, "Oh yeah, we're experiencing a high level of crimes against cars and people all over the city. It's not really limited to one neighborhood." It's like, oh, thanks. So that's kind of what's normal around here. But so the cops, I was surprised. The cops actually came in and dusted the door, no fingerprints, because they say it's a certain kind of surface. It won't really take fingerprints. It's weird though. I mean, I was upstairs. Had I been here when this happened, something that might have turned out like, when you're in a position where people threaten you, you don't want to really let people know what security measures you're taking. But let's just say I take them very seriously. And had I seen that person in my house with my brother's computers, might have turned out a little differently. He might not have walked out with the computers. Anyway, so my brother, he's not a techie, but all of a sudden he noticed, like he was just looking at his phone, and he noticed he had a Find My Computer feature on his phone. Boom, hit it. All of a sudden it starts beeping. He knows where his computers are. He goes down there. It's in a black part of town. Calls the cops. He's sitting out there. Sherlock Holmes is sitting out front of this house. He doesn't see anybody coming or going. Calls the cops. He goes, "Hey, my computer's in there. I know. I've got to find my phone." Cops roll in. Can't do anything about it. And you can't even knock on the door. No, we don't really do that. I'm not sure what the point of having Find My Phone or Find My Computer is if it's not worth. Nobody's talking about getting a battering ram and knocking a door down without a search warrant. We're just going up there and knocking on the door and saying, "Does anybody know anything about a computer signal coming from inside this house?" They wouldn't do that, and so the computer remains at large. And so the reason I'm talking about all this is because every once in a while we talk about places like Wilmington where the criminals are heroes and the cops are villains. And we just saw another case of that here. This guy with a criminal history confronting cops, looks like he's going to assault the cops. And by the way, my friend Willie Shields likes to remind people of the story from An Officer and a Gentleman. Lou Gossett, the trainer, he's teaching the officer candidates how to do hand-to-hand combat, and he's got one guy, I think he's choking him, and Lou Gossett looks down and he says, "The only thing in your mind right now is you are counting on me not to kill you." I'm not really telling this story that well. Not to kill you. You can't count on that when you're fighting an enemy. And so what was the only thing stopping that? I think his name's Demetrius? I forget his name. The black guy that was interfering with that investigation. What was the only thing preventing him from attacking those cops? It was probably because there was more than one cop and the cops were well armed. But that's the way these cities are now. I mean, cops are villains, criminals are heroes. And everybody agrees on one thing. Whatever you say, whatever you do during election time and during all the time off election, when you're talking about crime in a chocolate city, you can do any damn thing you want except make the black kids angry.